Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us live. If you're watching the replay somewhere in the free world, congratulations. If you're watching not in the free world, try to move to a democracy. But that's a little beyond the point. Welcome to another exciting adventure of Tech Tuesdays. This is a joint event of South Florida Tech Hub and the Owwll App. If you don't have the Owwll App, go ahead and download it. And if you register with the referral code of thank you, one word, you'll get $10 to start with. So thank you for that, pun intended. I'm your lovely and vivacious host for today, Jeffry Ullman. I'm Director of Membership and Partner Engagement at South Florida Tech Hub. So thank you again. Got a couple of quick announcements, and then we'll get started. We have a jam-packed show for you today. Very exciting guests. Not sure if they're lovely and vivacious, but we'll see. So a couple of things. We've got a lot of events this week. Coming up this Wednesday night at Florida Atlantic University is the Maverick, the annual Maverick reception. I'll let Dr. Cox talk a little more about that, but the reason I'm mentioning it, we're going to have a previous expert of the day, CEO of Wisp Energy, demo his actual live prototype of an ocean-based wind turbine. Pretty exciting technology. So he'll be there this Wednesday night. By the way, back to the Owwll app. If you want to reach me on Owwll, my office hours are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, every 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern. We also have this Thursday, our annual startup entrepreneurship event called Ignite. It's going to be at the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. Jason from Owwll will be there. And thank you to the Florida Atlantic Tech Runway. You're sponsoring 10 startups, which will be there as well. And I don't know if you're going to be able to come, Kevin. You can talk about that as well. But you will be at the Maverick event on Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
Okay. Kevin's a busy guy. The next event is Tech Talent Fest. It's going to be this Monday, the 18th, at Florida Atlantic University. If you're currently in school, about to graduate, or in career transition, come to our annual event. It's our annual event focused on tech talent. That is one of the core pillars of South Florida Tech Hub. Our keynote speaker is going to be the author of this book, LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies. I don't know about you, but my profile could use some optimization. Probably everybody's could. So come on out, meet Donna, hear her speak. It's going to be a great event. She'll be there live and in person, as will I. So I think that's enough for me from now. So I'm going to turn it over to Denis and let him introduce our guests, and we'll go forward. We also will be calling out a little later in the show to talk to some of our viewers. Denis, it's yours.
Jeffrey, thanks so much for the nice introduction. Good morning, Denis from Media Components. We're a full-service agency. I'm excited to have two special guests today. We have Matt from 2AM Tech, and we have Dr. Cox, also from FAU and Shrimp Tank. So I want to just jump in because today I think we're going to have a really exciting conversation. Since we have a tech guru and software developer here, we can actually ask like very technical, deep dive questions about technology, AI, everything we love to talk about at Tech Tuesdays. Matt from 2AM Tech, can you give a little bit of an introduction to yourself and your company, and how'd you end up here on this exciting podcast?
So I'm with 2am.tech. That is also our URL, 2am.tech, so it's pretty easy. We've been around for about 12 years. We're originally an offshoot of a company that started in New York. My partner and I decided to go off and do our own thing. We do custom software development, technology advising. We do staff augmentation and just general consulting.
Get the microphone closer a little bit. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And most of our focus these days has been in healthcare related and life science related. We've been working with a company up in New York on a medical device, a new infusion device, so IoT. We've also worked with for years with the emergency medical services company doing crew analysis, billing, automation, claims denials, things like that. And we've worked with sports injury company
Hmm.
doing analytics for ballet, basketball, soccer, and all that. But we also do just general business platforms as well.
So you mentioned the healthcare space and developing systems and procedures
Mhm.
of taking, you mentioned terabytes and terabytes of data and making it really useful, like with analytics. Can you give us a little bit of a background how you utilize the latest technologies such as AI to really parse and work with so much data that's out there, and specifically with security aspect, because healthcare has to be all HIPAA compliant. How do you guys handle dealing with so much like regulations and compliance when it comes to healthcare and so much data?
Well, with the HIPAA compliance, I mean, the data is encrypted and it's scoped to the actual companies. A company would be, for example, a municipality that has their own ambulance fleet or something like that. As far as dealing with lots of data, it's built to scale. For document management, they're using S3 buckets. Things are stored as images and PDFs. It's all OCR'd with like Tesseract from Amazon, and to use Elasticsearch and I think a MongoDB to index properly. They deal with petabytes of data. They don't have problems. They have saved searches and things like that to make it easier for the users.
Mm-hmm. So all those technical words, that's all like Amazon services for people that don't.
For this particular
understand.
client, they like the Amazon services.
Yeah.
For a lot of parts, we do seem to swim the best in AWS atmosphere. We do work with Azure and Google Cloud as well, but for the most part, we'd like to work with
the
AWS.
municipalities and like the government agencies. Are they more flexible utilizing AWS, like the Amazon service?
So we're not working directly with the municipalities. We work with the companies that work for the
Mhm.
municipalities, and the municipalities don't care.
They don't care as
They
long
don't,
as
they
it's
don't. They
secure.
don't want to know. You don't want to know how the sausage is made. You just want to eat the sausage.
They just want to process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. And as far as AI, do you use whatever AWS has, or do you develop anything proprietary?
Well, we developed. AI is kind of a misnomer. Sometimes a lot of it is an IA, where it's more of an intelligence assistant. So for we built a computer-aided coding module for them to figure out ICD-10 codes, medical necessity, priority. And we basically do pre-processed trips to make sure that the actual biller, the human, has less work that they have to do. And we did that we actually patented an algorithm of we studied how the biller was working and in the decision tree and the process that they make. And we just trained a model to do that. And we actually get like 99.9% throughput and accuracy, which is actually better than the human billers on it. And if you're talking about like generative AI, we're building something now with claim denials, but we haven't actually implemented it for the
That never happens, does it? You don't ever people don't get denied for claims these days.
Only in Northern Florida.
Sorry.
Well, that all sounds great, to me, because I understand everything you said mostly. But Dr. Kevin, what's new and exciting in your world? Can you give us a little bit of a background about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Dr. Kevin Cox. I'm the director at the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. I'm the lead instructor out at Tech Runway, our new venture accelerator, and I manage our Veterans Florida Entrepreneurship program, in addition to teaching some classes, doing some research. So I do try to stay pretty busy, whether I like it or not. You already mentioned big event this week, tomorrow night. That's where you want to be to celebrate all things entrepreneurship. It's really hard to believe, but the Tech Runway is celebrating 10 years.
No way.
Yeah, I've been out there in some capacity or another for
You're getting
an
old.
entire decade. Yeah, so I remember back in the first class when we had 3 companies that made up a cohort. You take one cohort of 3 companies in a year. Nowadays, at any given time, we take 2 cohorts a year. Applications are open right now, and we have 20 to 30, 35 companies in that program at any given time. So it's really grown into quite a robust resource for entrepreneurs and founders in the South Florida community, and we're just celebrating. We're having a good time. Short program, really nice event. The Maverick reception Wednesday night around 6 p.m. No real hard start on that. So just show up. get your tickets if you don't have them already. It is your absolute last chance. And then Ignite Florida is going to be awesome on Thursday. A whole day of celebration. Tech runway companies are going to be out there showcasing. Also, people from our Veterans Florida program and alumni from that program. So
Kevin, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what you just, given we just had Veterans Day, a lot of people might not be aware of the veterans program you have. So maybe talk a little more specifically about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a program that we run in conjunction with support from Veterans Florida, which is a great organization, supports veterans in all kinds of ways. What we work with them on specifically is an entrepreneurship program. So these are veterans, state residents of Florida who are interested in or who have started a business, right? And we provide them support, education, mentorship, lots of services and resources via the FAU Adams Center. That's all provided for them at no cost, right? It's completely subsidized for Veterans Florida. So it's a really great program. And we've had some wonderful success stories. I think everybody up here knows Steve Edwards with Premier Virtual. He's an alumni of both the Veterans Program and then later Tech Runway. And I think every
And Tech Hub, very active in
Yeah,
Tech Hub as
I
well.
was going to say, and I think every accelerator, incubator, or support organization in South Florida, he went through at one point in time. So I think we should all take some credit. No, he's done a great job and definitely supports the ecosystem.
And he exited that company that he.
Yeah, just last year. So again, great success story, and we hope to have more of those in the future, right? That's why we do what we do, to support those entrepreneurs.
That's great. Matt, what about you? How often are you working with other startups that looking to get software created?
I think we at least 30% of our business comes from startups. We
Did not know that.
Yeah, we actually, when we formed the company, we formed it around working for an actual pretty decent startup called Rebilly. They do reoccurring billing processing. And we came in and saved their project, which was, they had two teams working simultaneously to sit there and see who would actually come up with something. And they were failing, and we came in and did an audit, and we laid out a plan, brought a new team, and they successfully launched. We're working with a local company, Bricks. It's a fractional real estate company.
Oh yeah, I heard of that one. Yeah.
We used to work with, we still work with Steve Edwards at Premier Virtual. What else? We have a Coral Springs local. It's called Fave Page. It's a new social network coming out. We help them.
What's the worst thing about working with startups?
The worst thing of working with startups.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they're Steve Jobs. Everybody is saving the world. This is going to be the biggest thing ever. The personalities.
Hey, I get a lot of those people in my office
Yeah.
too.
Also,
Steve Jobs. Yeah.
I think, and for a company, consulting company, it's difficult because you watch startups do things that they shouldn't do. Like they'll keep building tech and say, we need this. And it's like, I like taking your money, but maybe you need some marketing. Maybe you need some focus groups. Maybe you need some operations or something.
Maybe you need some users. So
maybe you need users.
And
maybe you should.
What you should be.
Maybe
building.
you should read that fantastic book called Lean Startup, which
Yeah.
tells you you actually need to do some focus groups. You need to know what your audience wants. What is the old thing? Don't assume anything or make an ass out of you and me. Well, you assume you can have a failed app most likely. I've seen a lot of failures out there. It's never fun, and of course, unpaid bills.
Yeah. So that's the other thing I thought you might go to first is they have limited capital.
We've always tried to help. We've done things where we've even taken equity in companies. We've done cost type things. We like seeing the underdog succeed. We even started up in Coral Springs, Coral Tech Club, because Tech Hub always seems to be out east. And everybody who didn't go into work because so many people working remote these days, don't have something. So we meet sometime once a month over in Coral Springs, and we allow people like startups to introduce their products as well.
Okay, I got one more question. Quick.
Yeah.
What's your secret? right? Because there's a lot of great dev shops, a ton of members of South Florida Tech Hub, right? Jason works with Oz Digital, the Silver Logic Group has been a long time supporter of Tech. A lot of great shops. But what's your secret? Because there's been at least 3 founders that have told me your shop is the best and they love it working with you. So why do people tell me that?
I don't have one secret. I have one belief that the people that you work with and that work for you are important. So our hiring practices are purely cultural first. Our first interview is with someone. We ask some psychoanalytical questions where we have some things that would just see how you are. And we also tell our people, you should not be building this based solely on what you think it should be. You should put yourself in the shoes of the actual user, of your stakeholders. If you're building an app for people, a regular customer base, not business users, then you should think, as a customer, what would you want to use? What do you think they need? And we always try to deliver something a little over. I mean, if we're supposed to give 90, we're going to give 100.
Yeah. I can think of a couple instances where you built something that people were told founders were told from a number of people that couldn't be done. And you managed to pull it off. So you must be doing something right. That's straight from the founder's mouth. So I'm glad to tell you.
And Dr. Cox, that's why we had him on the show today.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, you put the culture first when you're hiring somebody, but with the remote team, can you give us a little bit of your insights? How do you keep that culture up? How do you do team building if everybody's remote?
Well, we try not to do too much hiring in satellite places. We try to hire in similar locales first off, so the team always has other people in their area that they can meet up with. We have a couple of people that like to travel. Mm-hmm. We do a company newsletter where we interview people. What are your likes? What are you up to? Things like that. We have the company jukebox channel. Mm-hmm. We play games like Guess Who This Was at the 5 years old, and the winner gets a set of AI generated pics of themselves and anything from a spaceman to riding a dinosaur. Mm-hmm. And we have conversations. We talk. We used to use this thing called Donut that automatically introduced people every Monday, and they had to have a 15-minute water cooler talk. Mm-hmm. It didn't get such good engagement because people don't like it, but it's just generally making sure that people turn on their cameras, get to know each other, keep people on the same team often, move them around to meet other people in the company and keep them engaged. And we, like I said, with the culture, we hire people that we want to be in a room with, not that we know that can do the job. I mean, there's some people that could do the job. I can't stand them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't want.
I know a few of those.
They just want to be in a dark room.
I've had so many things. I've heard so many. I can't work today because the barometric pressure is a certain thing.
Vibration is not right.
So we didn't talk about this, Matt. I'm so glad to hear you say about cultural fit. So full disclosure, been in the IT space a long time. I've been laid off more than once. And oftentimes when I'm interviewing for a job, the concept of cultural fit never comes up. I'm the one that has to bring it up and say, well, tell me about your culture. Is that so? Kudos to you, because I think that's so important to make sure that, yes, it's important to be able to do the job, but most people for technical roles can learn, but they may just not be at the cultural fit. So kudos to you for focusing on that.
We have to invest in our people because when we hire someone, we don't want them just for that project. We want to make sure that we're going to be able to use them for other projects. So we encourage them to spend a certain amount of time every week studying. We're coming up with a new product with soft launch called Roles Pilot, which will allow experts, developers, project managers, whatever designers to come in and build a profile and get vetted for their actual role. But what we're adding to that is a career path and track, which we do internally as well. We don't want you just to be a front-end developer. We want you to be a front-end developer who's going to pick up, 6 different
Good for you.
tech stacks for it. You're also going to try to go full stack if you're willing to do it. We have project managers that turn into QA that turn into project managers. We encourage learning. We pay for it, and you just start treating people like your people.
It's a shocking concept, but there are a lot of companies I found that don't follow that.
I think I've worked for a few.
Let me shift gears a little. So thank you for great information for both of you. So I'm sure there are going to be people that want to follow up. So I know you mentioned your URL, but in case people want to follow up, why don't you spell it slowly? Because I think people might be confused.
The number 2, the letter A, the letter M, a dot, TECH,
There you go.
2am.tech.
There you go. And I'm sure if someone wants to follow up, they can follow up on the Owwll app. I don't know if you've thought about maybe office hours, ad hoc. Have you given any thought to that yet?
I was playing around with it, but since I'm traveling next week, I figured I'd wait till I come back to turn it on.
Okay. Are you going to have office hours or?
Yeah, I'll probably do at least 1, if not 2 days a week.
Okay. So check Matt's profile. Dr. Cox, what's the best way for someone to follow up with you? How much are you on the Owwll app, LinkedIn? What's your preference? What's the best URL the people, if they want to do a little more research, they should go to?
Well, via the university, all URLs tend to get pretty long. So
I know.
you just Google FAU Adams Center, boom, it'll come right up. Or you Google FAU Tech Runway, you'll see the Maverick, you'll see everything we got going on. I'm also on LinkedIn and then have office hours on Owwll. So hit me up there.
Thank you for that.
Great. So for FAU Runway, what kind of companies are you looking right now? What kind of startups? Is a certain segment, industry?
No, that's a great question, right? It's something that's come up many times as we talk about and go through applications at Tech Runway. We're really agnostic. And one thing people sometimes, certainly historically assumed, was that the accelerator is for students and faculty. And that's absolutely right. But it's also looking to bring in the most promising startups in all of South Florida. You don't have to be a student. You don't have to be an alumni. You don't have to be affiliated with the school. Anyone can apply to that program. It's a year-long program that involves both mentorship, space, education, really kind of everything you might need to get started and hopefully begin to scale. We are agnostic in terms of industry and pretty much in terms of stage, right? It is competitive to get into that program. So we want you to have some progress, right? One of the newer things we've sort of implemented just recently is that when it comes to software, relevant for today, you really got to have something built, right? We've noticed over the years, like anybody and everybody can have a great idea for software.
I have 2 a day.
Yeah. Right. Like, and that's great.
Wow.
But that said,
You need a prototype. Right?
Yeah. Prototype. Now that said, if you're a student, your faculty, it can be, I'll just be blunt here. It can be terrible. It can be a terrible prototype. It can be ugly, but can it deliver the basic value proposition? Is it a workable prototype? Can I log in? Can I make an account? Not a screenshot, like kind of a wireframe of what it's going to be, but like an actual thing, because otherwise it gets hard to kind of apply the other resources of the program. The mentors don't have much to say because there isn't a thing besides an idea. So we are looking a little bit later stage on that side. But again, industry agnostic. We have all kinds of companies from med tech to marine tech to climate tech, lots of software.
Any specific like qualifications to get in the program?
Yeah, I mean, pretty broad, right? So you have to have less than $500,000 in revenue or fundraise, I think is the rule. Check the rules on the website to be sure that's true. So we do want early stage as opposed to, hey, we raised $2 million. Well, once you're there, you probably need a little bit more formal kind of advisory capacity. You may want to add your board, add people to the board. Like you have the resources, we hope to maybe even pay for some expertise. Whereas we want to help the companies that maybe they can't quite afford it, or they're not sure where to go, or they need the support. That's what we're there for, to support the founders and the founding team. So we encourage everybody to apply. Typically, if you apply and you don't get in, we have that fairly often. We'll give you some feedback. We'll provide some resources, discounts, or free entry into some educational programs that I run, and then you can reapply. And we've had a bunch of entrepreneurs, some now that I won't name since they didn't get in the first time, but that have really successful companies and that absolutely got rejected on their first application because it was just too early.
So you mentioned Premier Virtual. Talk about some other companies that were in the program that have gone on to be successful.
Well, the one that most people talk about, because it's grown to be quite large. The most recent valuation was at $1 billion. So that's your old trusty unicorn status, is Shipmonk, with founder Jan Bednar. And he was actually in the first class of Tech Runway. So that's a huge company with thousands of employees, over 1 million square feet of warehouse space. Anybody listening probably hasn't heard of it unless they're familiar with the story, because it's a boring business.
Right.
No offense, but it's fulfillment, right? For small business owners who sell products on the internet. It's a great service, a great company.
It's a great story. His backstory as well.
Yeah. We even take nonprofits. Another kind of unique thing about Tech Runway. A couple great stories is Mind and Melody are still out there servicing our elderly folks and making sure they're cognitively engaged. And then in addition to that, Child Rescue Coalition has been directly responsible for thousands of arrests of some pretty dangerous people using data and software.
So you currently said you're in the process of accepting applications now?
Yeah, they're wide open. So
yeah. So I forgot to mention, this is Global Entrepreneurship Week, GEW, and that's why we're having Ignite this week. There are a lot of solo entrepreneur startups that are users of Owwll. So this might be a great way to help scale and grow the company, to go ahead and apply for Florida Atlantic Tech Runway. For all you listeners on Owwll, you want to? Okay, this is the exciting part of the show. We are live. We're going to do a couple of call outs. I announced a new feature a couple of weeks ago, where we're going to check in with some previous experts of the day and get an update and see how they're doing. So
while we do that, Matt, what seems to be the biggest hurdles? And because you work with startups as well, and you kind of asked this question, what seems to be the problem working with startups? But in your mind, when you work with startups, what's their biggest issue operating the company and keep it all going? What's the?
It depends. For a lot smaller startups, is keeping the top person uninvolved, because they want to be on every meeting and give an opinion, and that usually leads to scope creep, because they're always thinking outside the box every single time. And the other problem we run into is you have an idea and you don't have an actual model.
Mm-hmm. So since you mentioned Amazon Web Services, do they have some kind of programs where they give you certain grants for a specific startup, or just to?
They have stuff for education. They do an occasional thing. I get an email once in a while where they offer up to $20,000 worth of infrastructure and other things. I think they actually do give money, and they also do give you the free year or so for companies, in which I've seen startups reapply for that free year again and again and get it extended.
Yeah, I'll dive in right here. There's a ton of free and discounted resources for founders. So any founder out there should definitely dig into that. A good resource to go to is Startup Stash, where they have a bunch of those kind of aggregated to one space. But right now in AI, Microsoft is just giving money away, right?
Copilot,
not money, but processing power, right? So these are vouchers for cloud space, vouchers for whatever a startup may be. It's a really wide scope of different resources for founders, and also checking locally, right? South Florida Tech Hub is a great organization with a wonderful newsletter that thankfully is just once a week, and it's cuts right to the chase, and it's one I absolutely read every single week just to see what's going on.
All right. Well, I think we have a caller, Stephen Edwards.
Yes. Hey
Oh.
guys, listen, I want to be on your call, but I just had to jump on a Zoom call. Somebody just called me. I'm going to call Jeff. I'll call you back in 15, 20 minutes.
This guy's the worst.
That works.
Man, who's more important? Come on.
Listen,
Oh man, he just got cut off. Do your Zoom meeting.
So the technical difficulty was mine. The person I had prearranged to be available was not available. So apologies for that. But we are live.
Techstash, is that the website, Kevin?
Startup Stash.
Startup Stash. Okay, that's a good one. So we're gonna try Jeb Reynolds.
Oh,
Yeah. Now we've got the wisest of owls has entered the building. So
Hey, Jeb.
he's going
Hello.
Welcome back to the show.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
it's your lucky day.
I guess
You were a previous expert of the day, so we wanted to check in with you again, even though we checked in a couple of weeks. So why don't you talk a little about the South Florida Manufacturers event we just went to and your relationship there? But before you do that, introduce yourself and what you do and what Centuric does.
Sure. Jeb Reynolds. I'm a business development manager with Centuric. We are a South Florida IT provider. So basically, we provide full service, full managed IT services for companies here in South Florida who perhaps don't have their own IT department. They hire us. We do their cybersecurity, help desk, and everything else that you would expect an IT department to do. So yeah, the South Florida Manufacturers Association, along with South Florida Tech Hub, are two of the associations that Centuric is most deeply involved with. And on Thursday, we had the delight to go to their annual meeting, and Jeffrey, of course, was there with me. So we got to sort of commingle the two associations and find some areas to work together on. And we also met a lot of great manufacturers. You know, sometimes these trade shows, they're full of vendors and salespeople, but this was a real down-to-earth event with a lot of, you know, actual South Florida manufacturing operators there. So it was a beautiful event. We had a great time, and thank you again, Jeffrey, for coming along.
You're welcome. Talk a little about, I know, excuse me, I know you're a user of Owwll. Talk a little about how you found it to be helpful and connections you've made using the Owwll app.
Sure, Owwll is a great way to, you know, actually get to talk to people around the country, around the state, perhaps even around the world. You know, with LinkedIn, obviously you can find people, see who they work for and what they do, but you know, there's not really a direct way to really interact with those people other than, you know, sending messages through the system. So, you know, Owwll really lets you, you know, actually find people and talk to them and start a relationship.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Jeb, let's do some of that right now. So I work with a bunch of kind of solopreneurs. Maybe they run a retail website on Shopify, simple setup, maybe a side hustle, that kind of thing. What do most of those people get wrong about cybersecurity?
I think most people think that cybersecurity is a set it and forget it type of a thing, or, you know, set it and put it aside for a while until it's time to reevaluate it next year or something like that. But really, it's an ongoing battle, right? So the bad actors out there are constantly every day finding new ways to get through, you know, existing defenses and infrastructure. And so you really need to be on top of it every day, the changes, the updates, the patches, as well as another service that we provide, which is called 24/7 SOC, or Secure Operations Center, which means we actually have people monitoring anyone who is trying to infiltrate our customers' networks in real time. And you'd be amazed at how many. You know, I think that's another thing that people don't know really is just how many of these attempts are occurring. So, there's a saying I heard the other day that there are two types of companies: those that have been hacked and those that don't know they've been hacked. And that's really true. And when I look at some of these reports from our Secure Operations Center, I can see that there are sometimes thousands of attempts in a month on a single company. Now, they're not all as serious or as sophisticated as they could be, and so we're able to sort of swat most of those aside pretty easily. But we do, get alerted to serious threats, and they happen every day for our customers. So, cybersecurity is something that you really need a professional firm or a professional department, IT department, to be constantly on top of every single day.
Jeb, let me ask you a quick question, because this morning I had another conversation regarding TikTok. I just read that Canada completely banned it, and it's going to be banned shortly United States because of some security issues. Are you familiar with the TikTok, news, and how are you guys handling it?
Yes, absolutely. I am not a personal user of TikTok, but I have absolutely been keeping up with the news. So basically, the federal government sees TikTok as a national security threat, and they have been trying to get its Chinese parent company to sell it off for the last couple of years. So, I would say that TikTok is not a major concern for most of our customers. And it is not something that has been raised with me by any of them. So that's actually the first time I've been asked that in this, in this scenario of cybersecurity for our corporate customers. I get the feeling it's not a major concern. I'm sure most of them do have, social media marketing people who are on TikTok promoting the company there, but I don't think it's a major concern for any of my customers.
Yeah, the Canada conversation, they just banned it on mobile devices, but some people are still using it on the web browser through like a VPN. And when you use it on the web browser, it opens up some kind of back doors where specifically if they use Microsoft Copilot, somehow the data is getting, stolen in a way. So that's very something to, kind of look after with the web browsing usage. And Matt.
Yeah, and that's a threat, obviously, with I suppose any of the technology that we source from our, I will say, adversaries, like China and to a lesser degree Russia, since we don't get as much from them. But you don't know what kind of backdoors have been inserted into these software programs and these platforms. So until they're uncovered, they generally are using some type of novel approach, and until they have been discovered, it's safer just to make sure that we keep our entire country safe by basically making sure that they sell to another company, or it'll have to be banned. But that'll be obviously unfortunate for kids and teenagers around the country if that happens. So I do hope they figure something out. It will not affect me to a great extent.
We're going to have riots on the street, but Matt, did you want to add something?
Yeah, we always ask our clients and really recommend that whenever you have any software built or any software you're using, custom software, even if it's a marketing website, do your due diligence. Pay someone like Jeb to get some penetration testing done. You check your API points, the different access points in the page. I think with the TikTok, it's also when they're opening it up in the browser on their phone and you will use with the company mobile apps and everything like that, like the 360 stuff. There are holes there that are being exploited. But if a company is engaging a cybersecurity firm and also in doing penetration testing on any bespoke software, usually you can batten down the hatches pretty good.
Great.
Well, there's going to be some disappointed students at Florida Atlantic University. I am sure I'll hear about that if it happens.
I think it's going to be a big issue, but just something to watch. I think if TikTok completely gets banned, I think all the users will switch back to Instagram. And that's going to be good for Mr. Zuckerberg. So.
Or YouTube Shorts.
Well,
Well, at least it's an American company, so I'm good with that. But I think we're running out of time, so I just want to say, I'm really happy that you guys are doing these podcasts. I'm really happy to be a part of them. So thank you for including me. Thank you to Tech Hub, Florida Makes and SFMA, and I encourage anyone out there listening to reach out to Jeffrey or to reach out to SFMA and find out how you can get involved.
Thank you, Jeb.
Thanks, Jeb.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks for taking the call.
All right, bye-bye.
So Matt, Jeffrey, going to do another call?
No, go.
Or I can ask. a question?
Go ahead.
So Matt, if let's say I have an idea for a startup and I'm looking for a software company to help me make it a reality, what's the best way to how does the process work for you to jump on board? Do I have to give you like an idea, a flow chart?
First, we have a phone call or an in-person meet or a Zoom, a video call or something like that. And we do a feasibility analysis. And then based on that, it's either something we've kind of done before and we can give you an answer, or we go ahead and propose a discovery process. A discovery process is trying to do sessions, usually no more than 90 minutes, but multiple sessions with multiple stakeholders and everything like that to discover the product, do some wireframes, maybe even a prototype or something like that, and really get that scope locked in. And then again, we're going to push you following that lean method to lock in the scope and come up with an MVP product.
Mm-hmm. And then once you launch, do you help with support and maintenance?
Yeah, we also do managed hosting. We can host, we do the maintenance. We have a good DevOps team that will just 24/7 monitoring of the infrastructure and the pages and everything like that.
And then if there's a new feature that I want to add, you guys can scope it out.
We're not looking for in and outs. We're looking to get married.
Mm-hmm.
We want to know. We want to know your grandkids. So yeah, long relationship. We're looking for
legacy relationship.
Yeah, and partnerships and friendships is what we're looking for.
And that's the way software works, right? There's a lot of misconceptions out there from would-be kind of tech founders or non-technologists, and I am one of them. I didn't know half the stuff you was talking about earlier with those acronyms, but what I do know is that where entrepreneurs are hoping, like, all right, I'll have to spend a lot, maybe $150,000 to develop X, but then I can go, and it's all profit. No, that's really not the case, right? Like, there are ongoing expenses with software. There is not the one build and then you say goodbye and maintenance is magic and security is magic and new features are magic and there's never any bugs. Like, that's not what happens. If your user base grows, if your company grows, so does your software, and so does your software expense, and kind of in perpetuity. There are some initial things that are different, maybe higher expenditures, but it's not something that ends and is done.
Exactly. And I like it. My best analogy is the food truck. If you buy a food truck and you start a food truck business, you still have to service that truck. You got to get new tires occasionally. You got to get a tune up. You got to turn it,
change the oil.
There's a lot of work on it. Sometimes you got to do a new paint job and things like that. So, you got to change your menu. There's always things you do in your business. When you have an office, like here in an office, there's constantly things that you're doing in your office to upkeep. So if your business and your whole model of making money relies on the technology, why would you ever just let it go?
Right. I wanted to kind of circle back to something you said. So in my regular day job, I talk to a lot of startups, entrepreneurs. A lot of them want to develop an app, and as a lot of startups go, they don't have a lot of capital or funding yet. And you mentioned that you would be interested in potentially, in lieu of taking, in lieu of being paid for your development, you might be willing to take an equity stake.
Sometimes
Talk a little about that.
Sometimes it's cost plus equity. Sometimes it's equity, but it has to be the right people. It has to be someone because basically you're forming a partnership.
Right.
And forming a partnership I'm a little more detail oriented than I am with picking a wife, because partners can be very painful and a lot of those relationships sour. So what we do is we send you to places like Tech Runway and Startup Stash, and there was the angel funding and a couple of things. We put you in touch with people that know. We help you find money. We do payment plans of sorts.
Okay, that's good to know.
We work with you if it makes sense. But if you come to me and say, I have the greatest idea for the new social media thing, social network, and I want you to pay for this and be my, my CTO, I would probably just nod and say, look over there.
Yes.
A follow-up question. You mentioned something about partnerships. Do you have a partner program? Are you looking to, let's say, with a company like Jeb, partner with them potentially? They're not in the software development business.
Always, we white label as a company.
You do. Okay.
Talk
a little about that.
Some of the best work I do, I can't tell you who they is. We've worked for Bacardi, we worked for WR Berkeley, we work for major conglomerates but not as us. So my people will come in, and if you say you're a small operation and only has like 10, 15 people, but you're turning down work because it's too big of a job, or you have people too busy right now and you can't recruit. Not only will we recruit for you, but you can use our people. They show up at your meetings. They'll sit there and say, if your name of your company is XYZ Technology, they'll get an email address, Frank at XYZ Technology, and come in the meeting and introduce themselves as Frank from XYZ Technology. They're all our people are client facing, meaning they can be on a video call if they're not in the actual town. And it allows people to scale. It allows, us to have some referral partners. And it also allows companies like Jeb, who might, because you asked if you have some software needs, you're going to ask your IT partner.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hey, I want to build something. Who do I go to? Well, he can make two choices. He can work with someone like me, and there's a referral percentage.
Okay.
Or he can sit there and say, you know what, I can do it for you. And he uses us as the back office.
So I think there are actually members of Owwll that would be interested in potentially, starting that kind of relationship. So
awesome.
Reach out to Matt on Owwll.
What kind of positions do you
go
bring
ahead.
to the table? If somebody wants to offset their staffing?
Front end development in React, Vue, Angular, pretty much the normal stuff. Any tech stack, we're tech agnostic, but front end, back end developers, full stack developers, QA automation engineers, manual QA people, DBAs, data analysts, project managers, technical delivery managers, scrum masters, designers. I'm sure there's other things that I'm missing.
Yeah,
but we've found for everybody. We also do like a recruitment type thing where you're not hiring them. We'll do the whole HR part of it, but they're your team member.
Yeah, you're referring to staff augmentation, correct?
Yeah.
Talk a little about that, because I think that's something that's not generally understood, how that works for companies that might need some project-based development, not full-time employees, for example.
So, like, for example, the emergency medical services management company, they need additional people. They need a database administrator for a certain tech stack. They're in Winston-Salem. They have a talent shortage there because, well, people that are good are going to Raleigh or other places, right? Not saying that people in Winston-Salem are not good. If anybody from Winston-Salem was listening, that's my little disclosure. But they'll say, hey, Matt, I need a DBA that is Oracle-based and this, and they're familiar with ELT and ETL, and they'll give me a job description. And I'll go and I'll ask them, is there any region in particular, any time zone issues that you don't want? You're looking for US based, you're looking for near shore, offshore. And we go ahead and we open an ad. If we don't have someone already, we also, like I said, have a roles pilot platform. So we look at the bench and we present candidates. We get you a profile sheet, which has their skill sets, their experience, and we allow you to interview them and decide if you want to use them.
It's a great program.
That's great. Well, speaking about all these new ideas and apps for new social media, with everything that's out there, Instagram, Snapchat, do you ever come across ideas that you're thinking like, this could be the next like Facebook, or how often does that come around? Maybe it doesn't. Because
No,
everything
I
is
mean,
just-
everybody, you can get excited about stuff, but sometimes I get a little pessimistic when I talk about AI and where content can be generated so easily that is not real anymore. That I think the good tech ideas would be to get people to actually together in their community, and that would be more, more something that I would like to see, because that actually helps build a community. And I actually heard something the other day that one of the reasons why people used to join like bowling leagues and different groups, the Kiwanis, Oddfellow, things like that, is because you got to meet everybody. And if someone was part of that community and part of those things, you knew they weren't going to cheat you because their reputation was so important. And these days where everything is so virtual and everything like that, your reputation is not that important. It's easier to cheat. So we have one client, he's doing a product, it's a social media, but it's fave page. And the idea is that you can favorite the things you want. So it is community building. And I like that because it's sitting there saying, hey, I just had a great tuna fish sandwich at this place. I'm going to take a picture of the sandwich. I'm going to sit there and say, this is great. And I'm going to mark that merchant. So people that follow me know where, if they're looking for a good tuna fish sandwich, they search tuna fish and say, hey, Matt, like that. So those kind of ideas I think are always good.
Private social network for communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, shameless shout out. If you want to get plugged into the technology and startup community down here in South Florida, Maverick Reception tomorrow night, and then Ignite Florida on Thursday.
Thank you. So, related question to you, Kevin. Given you talk to a lot of different companies over time.
I think we're calling
Oh,
Steve
okay.
Edwards is back from his Zoom adventure.
Good morning, Steve Edwards here.
Steve, thanks for calling in. You're live on Tech Tuesdays. Okay, we record you and broadcast your voice to the free world.
Yes, you can.
That's good to know. No access of evil here, just the free world.
No, you got some good people on there today, so I'm excited.
So tell us a little about you and your company, and then we'll ask you some questions.
So, Steve Edwards, I'm the president and founder of Premier Virtual. I developed the software, or my teams developed the software back in 2018 before COVID hit. We've done 10,000 virtual hiring events. My company got acquired last year by a larger organization called Career.io. My book just came out in July, which is called Weeding Through the BS, from idea to acquisition, that kind of talks about all the good things, the bad things about starting a company, the challenges with software development firms, and when you need to split with them, as well as mentor groups, potentially investment, which I bootstrapped everything. I never took investors, but it kind of is a roadmap for any entrepreneur that's out there, because so many of them see a success of somebody that exited, but they don't know all the challenges that goes through that in the beginning. So
thank you.
Here I am.
So congratulations. You mentioned specifically your book. If someone wanted to buy the book, where's the best way to go, or where to go to buy it?
You can either go to Kendall Hunt, who is the publisher of the book, or you can find it on Amazon.
It is on Amazon. Okay.
It is on Amazon.
So given this week is Global Entrepreneurship Week, and you're a successful alumni of Florida Atlantic Tech Runway, why don't you talk a little about that experience as well?
It kind of goes back a little more than just Tech Runway. As I went through the FAU's Veteran Entrepreneurship Program first.
Apologies, did not know that.
So I went through that. I was the first person ever for FAU to win the statewide Veterans Pitch Competition. So I brought that title to FAU. And then because of that, I got invited to Tech Runway. Went through Tech Runway. I had some good mentors. I had some bad mentors. And I think there's, with all mentor groups out there, you have some good ones, you have some bad ones. And I learned from both of them, because, people that don't help you, you can still learn from them. You can learn what not to do. So, but it was overall great experience. I actually went through 1909 as well, up in West Palm, which is a phenomenal organization. If you're a a startup as well that maybe can't get into one of the other programs. 1909, great program with Shayna and that team up there. So I've been through four different mentorship programs, just because I believe the more you learn, the more you earn, and I learned from all of them. The VMT as well. So you got to be able to, put yourself out there. And when you're in these programs, a couple things I like to tell people is, one, the more you put in, the more you get out of it. And two, if you have a bad mentor, fire them immediately. Don't be scared to go to the head of the group and say, hey, this mentor is absolutely terrible and is bringing zero value for me. And a lot of people are scared to do that. And, I'm very upfront with, how I talk about it, because if they're not bringing value to you and there's another mentor that could bring value to you, why wouldn't you want them on the team? And why would the head of that mentor program not want to know that, hey, this person is just not bringing value here? Maybe they're A, not a great mentor, or B, this is just not a good team for them to be on.
No, that's a great story. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Dr. Kevin Cox is here in the panel as well. It looks like he has a question.
Oh,
there he is.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, good to have you on here today. And I bet you're a perfect person to give some of this advice that I'm looking for. It's related to something else you're working on, somebody else I'm working with, of course. But what do you do? How can you tell if you're a founder and maybe you have kind of not a great idea, right? Like you crunch the numbers on something new that you were thinking about, and you did all the math and you looked at the business model. Maybe somebody helped you go through it, and it wasn't that interesting, and probably just is not a good idea. How can you figure that out as a founder?
Man, first of all, that is a phenomenal question. And I think most entrepreneurs out there go through that. I think Elon Musk went through that. Everybody goes through something where they may think is interesting, like the Boring Company. Everybody said it was crazy. And guess what? It's huge. Because when you look at a thing like a new venture, let's call it, it's not just numbers that you're looking at, right? And you have two different types of people out there. You have risk takers and you have people that only want to look at numbers. So the good thing is to kind of have a blend of both of those. And sometimes the risk taker is going to make a decision. The numbers person is going to look at everything to look at it to make something not work, because maybe their wife didn't like the idea, so they had to come up with another reason not to go through with it. But you got to be able to make a decision. And I look back at Premier Virtual. Every single person that I talked to about Premier Virtual told me it was the worst idea out there, that it was never going to work. And why did they look at that? They looked at some of the other things that were out there, and it was an idea that I took, bootstrapped, even though everybody told me it was a bad idea. And that's where I think a lot of entrepreneurs go, and some of them are not successful because of that, right? Because they go out and they don't look at it. But I think if you really just look at numbers, let's say you're looking at numbers to, hey, how can I be successful at this? If you start adding your time in, it'll never show a positive thing, because your time is the most valuable thing you have out there. But you got to put time in to make something work. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's good advice. You're going to be joining us this week at some of these fantastic events like Maverick Reception and Ignite Florida. I know you're typically a staple.
I will be at the Maverick Reception, and I am speaking on path to acquisition at Ignite Florida.
Oh, fantastic! I'll keep an eye out for you.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
You won't. Hey, you won't be able to miss me if you want to stand outside.
All right.
I think and I apologize if I'm wrong here, I think you're going to be working with us on Tech Talent Fest as well next week.
Yes, you guys are actually using our software for that on the virtual side of things.
Right. So thank you for that. We've got a couple of minutes left. Thank you for being so active in Tech Hub. Why don't you talk a little about why you're active in Tech Hub and how it's helped you in your company?
Tech Hub has been great. I think there is great networking opportunities there. from people that are, looking for jobs, which the other day I was in jury duty and the guy next to me, we just happened to be talking, and he's a member of Tech Hub, and he just unfortunately lost his job, and he's there. And I'm like, oh, Nicky. He goes, oh yeah, I know Nicky very well. I go to the events and stuff like that. So it's like small little things like that is networking. I think any kind of branding, getting your name out there is a great thing. And you just never know who you're going to meet and how that can help your business. I think you guys got Matt Tabin's on the panel today, isn't he?
Live and in person.
Live and in person. I know I got a minute left, but I got to give a shout out to Matt Tabin. So if you read my book, Weeding Through the BS, you're going to see I did something that most entrepreneurs are scared of. They're scared to switch development firms because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start over. I'm going to lose all this money. I switched 3 firms before I went to Matt. And I went to Matt's firm because I met him at a conference. And it was great. I remember the banner. It was like, your development team sucks. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't go with them right away. And I went in and I had a project, and Matt was the only one who said, we can get this project done. We can get it done within your budget. And I had to take a chance because I was already on 3 software development firms, 1 local, or 2 local, 1 international. And I took a chance. And I will tell you, it's the best chance I ever took in my entire life. I switched from Matt. Immediately, we said, hey, can you please add more time to this? Because I need to talk a little bit more. We're about 16 seconds left.
Yeah. Hold on. We're working on it.
Okay.
You're good.
All right. There
Another
we go.
10 minutes.
All right. Perfect. So I went to Matt, and, they finished the project. Then I said, hey, I really like this guy. So we brought 1 developer on full time. Then we brought another developer on full time. And my platform was running at that point, but we were on bugs. We parted ways with our other development firm, and we said we were going strictly with Matt and that team. And then I called him up one day, and I'm like, man, Matt, like, my software sucks. I want to burn and I use some different words. I want to burn the mother down and start from scratch, but I need this to work because it was, you'd fix one thing, there'd be another bug. Fix one thing, be another bug. And he's like, Steve, that's going to cost you, you're going to spend more money to keep one software up and running while you're building a second software. And I'm like, I don't care. At this point, I need a really good working software. So their team phenomenally got the other one. There was no bugs. It was working to where we needed to do. And then we built the second version of our software at the same time as we had that. Now I spent more money because I wanted a better overall platform that could scale much easier. The other one was not. It was complete spaghetti code. And Matt's team came in, and I think at our prime we had 5 developers and a DevOps guy. And it has been a game changer to work with him and his team over there. I try to refer everybody because I know the challenges that I went through, and so many entrepreneurs, and I have 2 good friends right now that go through challenges, and it's tough to want to switch, but to find a team like, 2 a.m., I was very blessed. That saved a lot of where I was at, a lot of time, a lot of headaches and everything, because finding a great development team and having somebody where, when I got behind a little bit, Matt and I were in contact. I can text Matt and say, hey, I need this or this. He's in contact. I'm in contact. And there's so many development firms, especially down here in South Florida, that promise the world that end up just taking advantage of people. So for any entrepreneur that's out there, like, really do your due diligence, find out like who you're with. And if you ever want to talk to me, reach out to me on Owwll. I would love to be able to talk to you about software development, about mentors, how to choose your mentor. This is something we talked a little bit earlier about. But I believe you should choose your mentors and interview your mentors before they're your mentor, because they may not be a good fit. I tell the story a lot. I had one of my mentors that told me I was doing everything wrong on marketing, that my whole plan was terrible. And then I found out that her budget at her last corporate company was $10 million a year. And I'm bootstrapping mine. She had never been in my shoes. So I'm doing everything wrong when that was my budget. you know, so you got to have somebody that can really be, I love to have a mentor that's been in my shoes that can be there and really guide me through of where I need to be on the next level.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stephen.
Did you pay him to do this?
No, Steve and I, we actually had very painful time one summer. We were at each other's throats. But like I said, we're looking to get married. We're looking for partnerships
You know,
and meeting people that we're friends with. And we got over the rough patch, and I know that he loves us, but my team loves working for him. And I think our guys are starting to actually work for the company at the bottom now. So
you mentioned having the company you hire as your development team. It's like being in a marriage, having a relationship. So being married for a long time, there are days I wish I wasn't married. So it's like any relationship, you're going to have good days and bad days, but obviously at the end, you're still married, and everything worked out in the end.
that's true.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. That's a great thing, Jeff, that you said. That is, you know, there's times where you're going to fight with them, but there's not times that, hey, listen, I need a divorce. I mean, 2 of my development firms, in the middle of the night, we went in and we locked out all the code. We had everything. We locked out all passwords. We locked everything. It was a bad breakup, but you had to make it that way, right? There's a huge firm here in South Florida that has 290 lawsuits against them. And it's like, they don't care, but they build stuff for you and they have all these lawsuits against them, but people use them. And it blows my mind. And I literally had to have such a drastic breakup because they were taking advantage. And there's a lot of these companies that are out there. And if you look at me today to 4 years ago, I can talk about software development. 4 years ago, I didn't know. I said, don't talk to me like that. You're talking to me in another language that I don't understand. Just tell me, how much is it going to cost me and how long is it going to take? That's it. Now I can understand that. But people take advantage of guys like me because they're like, we're just going to build this software. You know, when you got guys that are coming in and they're intelligent software developers, and you get these young entrepreneurs and they're like, man, I'm just going to build them out. I'm just going to bilk them all this money. Like, it's such a disgusting thing that happens out there. And I wish it didn't.
This is why we started a company. So we were working for, my partner and I were working for a company in New York that used to always do this. You promise the world, get them to pay. You can't deliver. You're working on weekends even, 7 days a week trying to deliver something that you can't do it. And they leave, but you already found 2 other clients. So our original name was Dos Amigos Consulting Group because we wanted this to be fun, because building things is supposed to be fun.
I agree. So, and here we are, right? So we're, life changes, but you have to sometimes take that. And this actually goes back to the question that Kevin answered. Sometimes you got to take a risk and a blind faith and not worry about anything else.
So, Stephen, you had a successful exit, I heard. So what's the next step for you? What's the next big thing?
So I actually work for that other company. So they kept me on as the president of the company, and I now have just recently launched their whole enterprise division. So I am back in corporate America and running with them. I might have a few other ideas that are out there that are in play, but I full time I work for the other company.
Got it.
Stephen, we've got about 2 minutes left, but anything else you want to mention or any other questions? Looks like Kevin has another question.
Oh, no. I just love getting Steve's perspective here, built on software. And as a non-technical founder, right? Like he's one of those that figured it out and now has kind of learned the lingo and some of the stuff. One of the challenges I see with a lot of people is, you mentioned whether it's the right company, the wrong company. If you were a non-tech founder and your idea is to start a tech business, like that's one of the fundamental challenges, right? Like I tell people they need a tech person to build a tech company. Ideally as part of the co-founding team, but maybe not. Maybe a really trusted advisor, a trusted mentor who can speak the language, because that's one of the first things I ask people. It's like, well, how are you going to, okay, you don't know anything about tech. You want to build this tech product. How are you even going to make a hiring decision for that really, really important partnership, as we've established today on the show? If you don't even know any of the jargon, you don't know, what an API is, you don't know anything, like you're probably going to make a bad hire unless you get really lucky, or again, do a ton of research, find someone you can trust to give you some guidance in that area, or have somebody internally on the team. I mean, it's just, that's one of the challenges I see a lot. And I see a lot of people make a lot of bad decisions.
Oh, I agree. I will say that, and Matt's going to laugh right here when I say this, but my best hire I ever had was a guy named Jose. Jose was an absolute bulldog, and in Matt's team and Jose didn't always get along in the beginning. But Jose was somebody I brought in because I didn't know tech, right? We had brought somebody else in and was not a good fit, was a terrible fit. And Jose came in and kind of taught me a lot as well. So, and he was able to kind of wrangle, and, even though there was kind of two alpha males with Jose and the other and the development team, it ended up working very well together. So having somebody with some tech knowledge, even if you got to give up a couple points, it's worth it. Because you have to have those people that are in knowledge. And I can't remember who said it, but it was, I don't know everything out there, but I can pick up a phone and I have somebody on my team that does know everybody out there. I didn't know everything, but I knew, and I knew I had an idea.
So Stephen, we're going to run out of time. Thank you very much for calling in. Thanks for all the comments.
See you at the event.
We did run out of time. Well, it's that point in the show that I hate. I think we could go on for another couple of hours.
Not with me. I'm out of here.
Okay, I could go on for another couple of hours, but let's go ahead and wrap up. Why don't we go around the table? Dr. Cox, any parting thoughts? Anything you want to mention that we haven't talked about?
No, it's Global Entrepreneurship Week. Celebrate with us. The Maverick Reception, Ignite Florida, FAU Adams Center, Florida Atlantic Tech Runway. Get your applications into the accelerator and reach out to me.
Thank you. Matt, parting thoughts?
Thanks for having me first.
You're welcome.
Did enjoy this. I wanted to touch something on what Steve said really quickly. Don't be afraid to use more than one company. It's like he said, interviewing mentors. If you need help and you don't have someone in your network, then use one to monitor the other. And it's an easy way of doing things. Besides that, Entrepreneur Week, enjoy it. Thanks for having me here.
You're welcome. Dennis?
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. I think it's important to, again, remind if people want to get involved with the South Florida Tech Hub, make sure you follow on LinkedIn and sign up to the newsletter. Very informational newsletter about local events, local happenings, sponsors, and members. And look forward to seeing everybody next week.
Thank you very much. So anybody that's not a member, that's interested in becoming a member of South Florida Tech Hub, that is my regular day job. Call me on Owwll on LinkedIn. Thank you for watching the podcast live, or if you're watching the replay, thank you very much. Again, just quickly, Wednesday night, Maverick Reception at Florida Atlantic University. Thursday, Ignite, Boca Raton Innovation Campus. Monday, Tech Talent Fest at FIU. All our events are on Eventbrite. Thank you very much. Thank you, Steph. Steph rocks. Next week, we're going to have Donna Seduler, the author of this book, live and in person. Thank you, everybody. Over and out.
See you next time.
Later.